Good morning. Homicide detectives have spent the night interviewing people at a Brisbane park where a French exchange student was found murdered exactly 1 week ago.
Have confirmed that they believe it was a foreign exchange student from France that was found on the banks of the Brisbane River and that she had been living here for around 1 year.
Brisbane, Australia, March 28th, 2014. Early morning. A woman is dying on a public bench in Kurilpa Park. She's been there for hours, naked, covered only with newspapers and a jacket to shield her from the storm that passed through during the night. People walk past her. Joggers, early morning commuters, cyclists heading to work. They glance at the bench. They see what they think is a homeless woman sleeping. They keep walking, but she's not sleeping. She's dying. By the time someone finally checks on her, it's too late. Who was she? What happened to her? And who did this? This is a mystery that would shake Brisbane to its core. This is the story of Sophie Collombet. When police arrived at Kurilpa Point Park that Friday morning, they found a young woman's body in a rotunda. She was stabbed, naked, and brutally murdered, covered with newspapers and someone's jacket. She had no identification, no belongings, nothing to tell them who she was. But they found something: jewellery. Police photographed it and posted it online, hoping someone would recognise it. Halfway across the world in France, a young man named Boris was scrolling through news about Brisbane. His girlfriend Sophie was studying there, and he'd heard about a murder. His heart was pounding as he looked at the police photos. Then he saw it. The jewellery. He recognised it immediately. It was Sophie's. Boris called Brisbane police from France. His voice shaking, he identified the victim. The woman on the bench was 21-year-old Sophie Collombet, a French student studying her master's in business at Griffith University. Sophie's friend Roselyne Trott had to make the devastating call to Sophie's parents.
Today, reporter Lauren Ellis joins us from Brisbane. And Lauren, are police any closer to solving this mystery?
Good morning, Georgie. Well, last night police said the search at this unit complex behind me was a critical part of the murder investigation. Detectives were seen entering the complex. They were inside for around 1 hour before they left with bags of evidence, and a man believed to be in his 20s was also seen assisting police with their inquiries.
Sophie came from Saint-Julien-Mont-Denis, a small commune in the mountains of southeastern France. But she dreamed bigger than her village.
Have confirmed that they believe it was a foreign exchange student from France that was found on the banks of the Brisbane River and that she had been living here for around 1 year. And this breakthrough came after police received a phone call from the victim's boyfriend and also friend, who both said that she was missing. Now, police divers yesterday spent hours scouring the banks of the Brisbane River and also looking through CCTV footage for neighbouring businesses in the hope of identifying a suspect. At this stage, as you said, the woman's body is yet to be formally identified, but it is the third foreign exchange student to have been murdered in Brisbane in the last 4 months. Georgie?
All right, Lauren Ellis, thank you.
In February 2013, Sophie packed her bags and flew to Brisbane. She enrolled at Griffith University. She made friends. She had Boris back home waiting for her. She was living her dream. On the evening of March 27th, 2014, Sophie attended a 3-hour lecture that ended around 8:20 p.m. A friend offered her a ride home. She declined. It was the last time anyone who knew her would see her alive. Police pieced together Sophie's final hours through CCTV footage scattered across Brisbane. At 8:47 p.m, Sophie got off a bus at the Cultural Centre. Security cameras captured her with her distinctive large cloth bag over her shoulder and an umbrella above her head. It was raining heavily that night. A storm was rolling in. At approximately 9 p.m, CCTV footage shows her walking upstream on the south side of the Brisbane River.
Police have released security footage of 21-year-old French student Sophie Collombet in the moments leading up to her murder. It's been almost a week since the business student was bashed to death beside the river in South Brisbane. More police will patrol the area overnight as the hunt for her killer intensifies.
She was heading home. Her apartment was across the go-between bridge, and the fastest route was along the popular riverside path through Kurilpa Point Park.
You would think there was a lot of people around, albeit it was raining heavily. So yeah, no, it's shocking.
Police divers found her umbrella in the Brisbane River. They're still looking for her clothes, boots, handbag, and possibly her smartphone and tablet.
This wasn't some isolated trail. Kurilpa Park sits right in the cultural heart of Brisbane, near the Gallery of Modern Art, under the William Jolly Bridge. Hundreds of people use this path every day. Joggers, cyclists, students. It should have been safe. But between 9 p.m. and the early morning hours, something terrible happened to Sophie. The last CCTV footage of Sophie alive was captured between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Friday morning in the inner city. By 6 a.m., she was dead. The storm had passed. When police arrived, they found a scene of horrific violence. Detective Inspector Rod Kemp would later describe it as a particularly aggressive attack. Sophie had been raped. Then she was bludgeoned, beaten repeatedly with blunt force. The medical examiner would later document 128 external injuries on her body. 128, including skull fractures from the severe head trauma that ultimately caused her death. But here's what made this even more horrifying. Sophie was still alive when her attacker left her. She survived for several hours after the assault, lying on that bench, unable to call for help, unable to move, as people walked past thinking she was just another homeless person sleeping rough in the park. The attack was so violent that Sophie's body was left naked and battered. All of her belongings were missing. Her large cream and brown cloth shoulder bag, her iPad, her BlackBerry phone, her beige singlet top, her dark denim jeans, her black ankle-high boots. Everything gone.
But what was the motive behind the murder? Police say at this stage there's no evidence to suggest the killer was known to Miss Collombet and are treating this as an opportunistic attack.
I don't think there's anything to suggest you could put a tag of a foreign student on. I think she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Foot patrols have been bolstered around the park and officers are interviewing walkers in the hope of finding a new lead. News of the murder has made headlines in Sophie's hometown in northern France. Overseas reports are calling her death mysterious. Back home, uni students from across Brisbane are planning a vigil in the coming days.
We're deeply saddened by this and we're having this vigil next Thursday night in memory of her, to honour her.
And during a meeting with the French ambassador, the Premier offered his condolences and assistance to the Collombet family. They're now arranging the heartbreaking return home of her body. Josh Bavis, ABC News, Brisbane.
The person who did this to her had stripped her of everything, then covered her with newspapers and his own jacket before vanishing. More than 60 investigators were assigned to the case. This wasn't just any murder. Sophie was the 4th international student to be killed in Brisbane in 4 months. The city was reeling. The pressure was enormous. Then they started looking at the CCTV footage more carefully, and they found something. On the night of March 27th, around the same time Sophie was walking through the area, security cameras captured another person, a man. He was at the Melbourne Hotel in South Brisbane during the day. Footage from around midday showed him wearing a black singlet and long black pants. He was carrying what appeared to be a bag. But more importantly, he was captured on security footage in the same area where Sophie walked after she got off the bus at 8:47 p.m. Police needed to find this man. He might have seen something. He might know something. On April 4th, 2014, a week after Sophie's murder, police made an announcement. They were looking for a 25-year-old man named Benjamin James Millward from Ipswich, Queensland. He was a person of interest. Not a suspect yet, but someone they desperately needed to speak with. Inspector Rod Kemp held a press conference.
The ongoing investigation into the death of Sophie Collombet, detectives have identified a number of persons of interest or witnesses surrounding this matter, and we're currently asking for the public, in particular a certain person who we believe was at the scene around the time of, we believe, when Sophie was was killed, and that person we wish to give to the public through the media, if I may. His name's Benjamin James Millward. He is 25 years of age. He's 180 centimetres, proportionate build. He has a dragon tattoo on the left side of his chest. Short, fair hair, hazel eyes. This person has come to our notice through speaking to other witnesses and examining CCTV in the area. We've asked people if they know this person, perhaps not to approach him. We don't know what his involvement is in the matter at this stage, but he is a person that we wish to speak to. His involvement in the matter at this stage, the totality of it, we're not sure of. But obviously for personal safety, if people know this person, if they could contact Crime Stoppers or the Dutton Park CIB. I would advise people not to approach him. If he is involved in this matter, then clearly he could be a risk. And obviously it'd be easier or better if members of the public could contact Crime Stoppers or the Dutton Park Criminal Investigation Branch.
But where was Benjamin Millward? He'd vanished. As police searched, details about Millward began to emerge. He was 25 years old. He grew up in Ipswich, Queensland. At the time of Sophie's death, Millward was staying at a Catholic hostel for homeless men and recently paroled individuals. This wasn't just any halfway house. Some of the residents had been imprisoned for serious crimes, including murder and rape. And the location of this hostel? Uncomfortably close to Brisbane's cultural precinct, close to the Riverside Path, close to where students like Sophie walked every day. On the evening of March 27th, witnesses would later testify that Millward had been at the hostel using methamphetamine, ice, and had been drinking bourbon and wine. He was heavily intoxicated. He didn't return to the hostel by curfew that night. When police came looking for him in the days after Sophie's murder, he was gone. Police tracked his movements. They followed leads. They searched Queensland. And then, on April 7th, 2014, they got a break. Millward had fled to Coffs Harbour in New South Wales, about 470 kilometres south of Brisbane. He was spotted at a supermarket. Authorities moved in. They arrested Benjamin James Millward and brought him back to Queensland. When Millward was arrested and questioned, something unexpected happened. He confessed. He admitted to the rape and murder of Sophie Collombet. He was sex addicted. DNA matching Millward's was found under Sophie's fingernails. She had fought back. Physical evidence, witness testimony about his drug use that night, CCTV footage placing him in the area, and now his own confession. Police finally had their answers about what happened that night. Millward, high on alcohol, had encountered Sophie on the Riverside Path. He attacked her. He raped her. He beat her 128 times with blunt force, fracturing her skull. Then he stripped her of her belongings, covered her with newspapers and his jacket, and fled. He threw her bag, her phone, her iPad, all her possessions, into the Brisbane River. And he left her there, alive, dying. When police arrested him, Millward told them, "What I've done is just fucking horrible." The mystery of who killed Sophie Collombet was solved, but the questions about why, about how this could happen, were just beginning. On April 10th, 2014, 3 days after Millward's arrest, something remarkable happened. Over 2,000 people marched through Brisbane. Most of them had never met Sophie. They gathered at King George Square in front of City Hall, held speeches, then walked to Kurilpa Point Park for a candlelight vigil. The march organisers were clear about their purpose: to show that Brisbane cares about violence against women. But the march also forced uncomfortable conversations. Why was a facility housing recently paroled violent offenders, including those convicted of rape and murder, placed so close to a major cultural precinct where students and families walked daily? Despite multiple crimes reported there, why hadn't Kurilpa Point Park been made safer? How many people walked past Sophie that night and morning and saw what they thought was a homeless person sleeping? What does that say about how we view homelessness? About how we fail to check on vulnerable people in public spaces? Sophie's parents sent a letter that was read at the vigil. It was heartbreaking and beautiful. They spoke of their daughter's love of life, her courage to travel, her dreams. Benjamin Millward's case moved through the court system. In October 2016, 2.5 years after Sophie's death, he appeared in the Brisbane Supreme Court. He pleaded guilty to the rape and murder of Sophie Collombet. Sophie's brother Guillaume attended the plea hearing. Other family members travelled from France to be present for the sentencing. On October 25, 2016, Justice Anne Lyons delivered the sentence. Benjamin Millward was sentenced to life in prison with a 20-year non-parole period. He would be 46 years old before he could even be considered for release. He also received 15 years for rape, to be served concurrently with the life sentence. The court heard devastating testimony about the attack. Prosecutor Todd Fuller presented details from the post-mortem report. Sophie had suffered 128 extensive external injuries, including skull fractures from the repeated blunt force trauma. Sophie's family sat in the courtroom, visibly distressed. When the prosecution began presenting the graphic details from the medical examiner's report, her family couldn't bear it. They left the courtroom, overcome with grief. Millward's defense lawyer said his client was deeply and truly sorry for what he has done and had written a letter to Sophie's family expressing remorse. As Millward was led away by guards, he looked at the Collombet family and said, "I'm so sorry." They walked out without responding. Justice Lyons was visibly emotional as she delivered her statement. She was scathing in her condemnation. She had strong words for Millward about his drug use. She told him to redeem his life by warning others about the devastating effects of ice and drug addiction.
She died not far from this courthouse. I can see the spot from my room. This young woman died at your hands. You have caused her death. It is so hard to understand how you could have acted in that way. The sentence I'm about to impose denounces publicly your conduct and communicates to you society's absolute condemnation of your conduct. You attacked a defenceless woman. You showed her no respect. You attacked her inherent dignity as a person. You attacked her dignity as a woman. You treated her appallingly and then left her. You walked away. I understand the term in French is réclusion criminelle à perpétuité. In either language, the meaning is clear. You will forever be serving a sentence of life imprisonment.
Colombays flew across the world for today, but it's a different world to the one they once knew.
The day they've learned of Sophie's demise, the world collapsed around them and has never been the same since.
Sophie Collombet was a 21-year-old French student studying abroad. As Millward was taken away, he said, "I'm so sorry" to Sophie's family, an apology that wasn't accepted.
They want to soldier on and they want to try and get on with their life as best they can.
Brisbane's Lord Mayor met the Collombets this afternoon and they've received cards, flowers and...
The results are always catastrophic. It's just a question of the magnitude of the catastrophe. A harrowing statement from Boris, Sophie's boyfriend, whose visa had run out 6 weeks before her death, was read to the court. He wrote that his nights were haunted by nightmares, describing himself as trying to rebuild my life on a field of ruins. Sophie's case raised questions that Brisbane and Australia couldn't ignore. Methamphetamine use was and continues to be a serious problem in Australia. Millward's attack was drug-fueled. Sophie was walking home from class, something millions of women do every day. The march organisers made violence against women central to their message. Because it is. Because women calculate risk every time they walk alone. Because Sophie should have been safe. Sophie Collombet was buried in her hometown of Saint-Julien-Mont-Denis in France. Her family, her village and her boyfriend Boris mourned the loss of this bright young woman whose life was stolen from her. But in Brisbane, she's not forgotten. A memorial stone was placed at Kurilpa Point Park where Sophie died. It sits in the shade of a large fig tree between the old milk factory and the brown snake of the Brisbane River. The stone bears an image of mountains, the mountains viewed from Sophie's family home in France. And on that stone, there's also a butterfly. Sophie's brother Guillaume later explained the significance of the butterfly in a message to the people of Brisbane. He wrote that several days after Sophie's death, he was overcome with grief and asked for comfort. At that moment, a butterfly appeared. It came to rest on his hand and stayed there for several minutes. That butterfly became a symbol of Sophie's spirit, of peace, of the connection between France and Australia, between her family's grief and the Brisbane community's compassion. Local residents and visitors stop at the memorial regularly. They brush away the fig tree's debris. They leave small river stones as tokens of remembrance. They take time to pause, to read Sophie's story, to make sure she's not forgotten. One community member wrote about the memorial. Take time to visit Sophie's stone. Introduce someone else to Sophie. You'll probably feel too that there is something you want to say while you are visiting. Even in grief, Sophie's family extended grace. Sophie Collombet was 21 years old when she died. She had dreams. She had a family who loved her. One night, one man high on drugs, one moment of being in the wrong place, and all of that was taken away. The mystery of who killed Sophie was solved. Benjamin Millward sits in prison, serving his life sentence. If you're ever in Brisbane, walk along that riverside path. Find Sophie's memorial stone. Look for the butterfly engraved there. Take a moment. Remember that she was a real person with real dreams. And maybe, just maybe, next time you see someone who looks like they might need help, you'll stop. You'll check. You'll make the call. Because Sophie should have made it home that night. The mystery of her death has been solved. But the lessons from her story remain. Rest in peace, Sophie Collombet.